Colorado, home of jagged mountains, frontier ghost towns, and the stories buried deep in the snow and the stone. In this episode, we travel across the Centennial State, from haunted hotels to cursed roads and high desert legends passed down through generations. We begin in Estes Park, in the grand hotel that inspired Stephen King's The Shining. But before Hollywood, there were guests who never checked out. Then, we'll drift to Riverdale Road, dubbed the most haunted road in America, where drivers encounter a phantom jogger, blood-red gates, and something darker lurking in the trees. And finally, we journey to San Luis Valley, a remote and mystical land where stories of skinwalkers, UFOs, and ancient curses collide. Turn down the lights and stay close. I'm Drifter Voyages, and this is the 50th Room Podcast.
Oh, Colorado, what secrets do you keep underneath your peaks? The dead don't sleep. Cries in the canyon, shadows in the frost. Every trail a tale of something lost. You're haunted, cursed in the Rockies.
In the high country of Colorado, nestled in the shadows of the Rocky Mountains, there's a hotel that gleams white against the wild pines. Elegant, majestic, and haunted. The Stanley Hotel in Estes Park has stood for more than a century. Its foundations are soaked in luxury and layered in lingering spirits. And if you ask the locals, or anyone who dares spend the night there, they'll tell you, the Stanley does not forget its guests, especially the ones who never leave. A lady decided to stay at the Stanley Hotel and she picked room 217. She didn't expect anything strange, just a weekend retreat, peace and fresh air. She checked into room 217, unpacked, and went to sleep. Then she awoke in the middle of the night. The lights were flickering. She hadn't touched the switch. Her suitcase sat at the foot of her bed, zipped up and neatly packed. And the room smelled like flowers, freshly picked, strong, impossible. She was alone, but someone or something had been there. Now, room 217 has a reputation. For some, it's just a number, but for others, it's a warning. Now, before we continue, I want to give some historical context about the Stanley Hotel. Built in 1909 by Freeland Oscar Stanley, the inventor of the Stanley Streamer automobile, the Stanley Hotel was intended as a luxurious getaway for the elite and a health retreat for those afflicted with tuberculosis. The dry mountain air was thought to be healing, but not everyone who came here went home. The grand halls, echoing chambers, and manicured lawns concealed suffering and death. And over time, the hotel gained something it never advertised: a reputation for the unexplained. Maids reported seeing figures watching them from mirrors. People would say they heard children's laughter echo down the hallways long after midnight. The piano, still tuned, plays itself at night. Some say they think it's Flora Stanley, the wife to Oscar Stanley, who loved music more than anything. Guests have heard her playing softly in the early hours, long after the last guest has gone to bed. In 1911, a massive gas explosion shook the hotel. Room 217 bore the brunt of it. A housekeeper named Elizabeth was thrown from the floor and miraculously survived. Yes, she recovered, but according to legend, she never truly left her post at the Stanley Hotel. Guests still report their bags mysteriously unpacked or packed overnight, just as Miss Elizabeth might have done. Some awaken to find their beds tucked tightly around them. A few feel a soft tug on the covers, gentle and almost motherly. Others say they feel someone watching as they sleep. In 1974, a young writer by the name of Stephen King checked into the Stanley Hotel. It was the off-season. He and his wife were there only as guests. And that night, Mr. King had a nightmare. He dreamt of his young son running down the hallways, chased by a malevolent force. Something old. Something that felt angry. Stephen King awoke, drenched in sweat, lit a cigarette, and sat by the window. By sunrise, the seed of The Shining had been planted. When I hear stories like this, I think, sometimes places don't just inspire stories. Sometimes they demand them. Over the years, former staff members have shared what they've seen and what they wish they hadn't. One manager described encountering a bellboy in an old-fashioned uniform, standing at the end of the hallway. The man nodded politely and offered to help with the bags. Then, the bellboy faded into the mist before he could finish his sentence. Then there's the stories from in the dining room. Long, cold, and empty. Some guests report hearing voices, clinking glasses, and even the faint echoes of music and dancing from a party that no longer exists. Paranormal investigators have captured electronic voice phenomenon, EVPs, ghostly voices embedded in static. They've heard things like, "Don't go upstairs," "Get out," and "He's here." In the vortex staircase, a swirling column of energy that some claim is a spiritual gateway, visitors have reported sudden nausea, vertigo, and whispers brushing past their ears. Children's laughter is often heard at the top of the stairs, even when no children are checked in. The Stanley Hotel was built atop a web of service tunnels, dark, narrow passages used by staff to navigate discreetly below the guest rooms. In a 2012 investigation, a paranormal team descended into the tunnels with thermal cameras, recorders, and motion sensors. And as you can imagine, they captured some interesting things. Within minutes, the temperature dropped over 15 degrees. One sensor tripped, and then another, and another. A shadow darted across the far end of the corridor, and then the EVP recorder crackled to life. A voice, clear, guttural, said one word: "Leave." The Stanley Hotel itself isn't malevolent, I believe. But it's not empty. Some say it remembers every breath, every footstep, and every fear. And if you walk its halls long enough, maybe you'll hear some laughter, some talk among the dead elite, and a soft piano playing a haunting, quiet tune. You've just walked the halls of the Stanley, and perhaps something walked alongside you. But don't unpack just yet. There's a road outside of Denver where spirits don't wait to be invited in.
The mind still breathes, though the men are gone. Pickaxe clinks in the dark before dawn. Silver blood and broken bones buried deep in Mount Stone.
Just north of Denver, there is a stretch of asphalt that twists between the towns of Thornton and Brighton. Quiet, rural, surrounded by cottonwoods and open fields. It looks ordinary enough, but Riverdale Road has earned a reputation unlike any other in America. Some call it the most haunted road in the country. Others just call it cursed. If you find yourself driving at night, windows down, headlights sweeping the darkness, listen carefully. Something might be listening back. In 2011, a young couple pulled over just past mile marker 13. Their car had stalled, the battery dead, even though the battery was new. They sat in silence, waiting, trying to figure out what they were going to do. That's when they heard it. A thud, and then again. Thud, thud. Footsteps, heavy, running, getting closer. The young woman turned just as something slammed against the rear window. They both screamed, but when they looked outside, there was nothing there. Then, the car started, and when they drove home, shaken and pale, they found 3 deep claw-like scratches across the back of the vehicle. Marks they swear weren't there before. Locals say it was the phantom jogger, a man killed in a hit and run. Now he chases down anyone who would stop on the road, not for help, but for revenge. The legends that snake through Riverdale Road are many, tangled, overlapping, and deeply rooted in Colorado lore. The gates of hell, rusted iron gates, stand alone, overgrown with vines and surrounded by scorched earth. They are all the remains of a mansion that burned down in the mid-1900s, reportedly after its owner went mad, murdered his family, and set the house ablaze. Locals say the gates opened for the devil himself, and that screams can still be heard coming from where the basement once stood. There have been reports of a woman in white that appears suddenly on the road's shoulder, pale and drifting. Sometimes they vanish, and sometimes they follow you. There have been sightings of black-cloaked figures walking through the cottonwood groves, only to disappear when approached. There's the ghost deer with glowing eyes standing motionless in the middle of the road, causing drivers to swerve, only for the animals to vanish into thin air. And worst of all, the screaming. Voices, male, female, young, screaming in pain, in rage, and in desperation. But when you stop to listen, there's nothing there. In the early 1970s, teenagers began to gather near the burned mansion ruins, drawn by the legends of the gates of hell. Some brought candles, others brought books. One group, 6 high schoolers, was never seen again after venturing into the woods just past the gates. Their names are carved into the trees by the roadside. Some think it was just a disappearance. Others think it was something older, and something that is still waiting. Some roads take you home. Others take something from you. Urban explorers who've combed the area report finding old foundations, crumbling steps, broken well covers, and even hearing whispers calling their names. One man said he heard his brother, who'd been dead for 10 years, calling from the trees. Another claimed his flashlight died just as a figure appeared in front of him, mouth open in a scream, but silent. When he turned to run, he said he could feel hands brushing his shoulders, chasing him through the dark, reaching for him to pull him back in. Local law enforcement reports confirm multiple missing persons cases, vehicle disappearances, and fatal accidents along Riverdale Road, many of which match the locations tied to ghost sightings. A jogger hit near mile 12, a car wreck with no clear cause near the gates of hell, a motorcyclist found dead in the ditch with no sign of his bike. Are these just coincidences? Maybe, but the stories say otherwise. In 2018, a paranormal research team conducted a midnight walkthrough of Riverdale Road. They carried EVPs, thermal cameras, and atmospheric sensors. And what they captured was chilling. There were cold spots that dropped nearly 30 degrees in seconds. Thermal images caught what appeared to be figures pacing the trees, though no one was visible to the naked eye. One EVP clip recorded a female voice whispering, "Run," followed by 3 loud knocks against their parked van. Then, their gear cut out. All of it, even the backup batteries. When they returned to the hotel, one of the team members found a new voicemail in his phone. Static. Then, breathing. And then, a voice. "Come back." The number it came from, no longer in service. Riverdale Road isn't just haunted. It's layered with grief, mystery, rage, and echoes that refuse to fade. It's a road built for cars, but something else walks it. If you ever find yourself driving late at night, windows down, radio off, and you hear something tap on the side of your car, don't stop. Don't look. And for the love of whatever you believe in, don't answer the voice that calls your name.
Oh, Colorado, what secrets do you keep underneath your peaks? The dead
Roads remember what we try to forget, but now we take a turn south, towards the desert, towards older shadows. Shadows that wear faces.
something lost, you're haunted, cursed in the Rockies.
Southern Colorado, a high desert basin cradled by mountain peaks, where ancient stones hold stories and the sky crackles with strange light. The San Luis Valley is vast, remote, and fiercely beautiful. But it's not just the wind that moves across its plains. Here, people speak in hushed tones about things not meant to be named, and at the heart of those whispers are the skinwalkers. Back in 2004, a rancher found 16 of his cattle dead, laid out in perfect symmetry, eyes removed, tongues cut. No blood, no tracks, and no sign of struggle. The cuts, investigators noted, were surgical, cleaner than any blade would achieve in the open air. The ground was dry, the dust undisturbed. The rancher stood under the rising sun, staring at his silent field, and said only this: they weren't killed by anything natural, and they weren't killed by anything human either. The valley has always been a place of mystery, but some say mystery turned into menace. Long before settlers arrived, the San Luis Valley was the domain of the Ute people, with nearby ties to the Navajo nations to the south. Both cultures spoke of sacred lands, powerful spirits, and a natural world alive with meaning. The Navajo legends speak of a dark practice, Yeh Na Da Lisi, the skinwalker, not a creature, but a person, twisted by greed, jealousy, and rage. A witch who, through forbidden rites, could take the form of an animal, most commonly a coyote, wolf, owl, or deer. But more horrifying, they could wear the skin of humans as well. Traditions say they gain power by committing unspeakable acts, often involving family. Once changed, they moved by night and fed by chaos. and when the US government displaced indigenous people from their homelands. Some elders believed the land itself was cursed, torn from its guardians, left open to things that don't belong. Not all stories are metaphors. Some are just plain warnings. On one fall evening in 1997, a hunter was tracking elk through the northern ridge. As the mist settled low and the air grew still, he spotted a coyote limping in the field ahead. The hunter raised his rifle, and then he froze. The animal stood up, straightened, and grew. What had been a four-legged creature was now crouching, its limbs too long, spine arched, and fingers clawed. Its face still too coyote, but the hunter could see its eyes through his scope, and his eyes were human. Then it looked at him, tilted its head, and turned to vanish into the fog. In the small towns scattered through the valley, old families passed down strange advice. If you hear your name called at night, don't answer, especially if you're alone. Don't whistle after dark. Don't sleep near open doors without salt in the still. And never, ever speak to the figure in the field, even if it looks like someone you know. In the 1980s, people reported seeing unmarked black helicopters flying over ranches following waves of cattle mutilations. No agencies claimed them. Some believe Project Gas Buggy, an underground nuclear test site nearby, awakened or attracted something. Several ranchers reported visits from government men in suits. No names, no explanations. Just this question: have you seen anything strange? Those men in black knew something was there. The question is, did they come to study it, or did they come to stop it? Now, this region doesn't just have one story. It has all of them. Shadow people seen darting between trees at the edge of vision. Radios going dead or turning to static in exact spots again and again. Hikers vanishing in the clear weather, only to be found days later, confused, barefoot, with no memory. And even lights seen zigzagging through the night sky, fast, impossible, and then gone. Whatever haunts this land, it doesn't work alone. In 2015, a solo camper pitched his tent near the Great Sand Dunes. He awoke at 2:47 a.m. The air was dead still. No crickets, no wind. And then he heard it, humming, low, soft, a lullaby. And not just any lullaby. It was an old Spanish song his abuela used to sing to him. So, the camper slowly unzipped the flap, and he saw a man, or what he thought was a man, with the head of a deer, antlers full. The creature tilted its head, like it heard the song too. And then it stopped. Everything stopped. The camper passed out, and when he awoke, the coals from his fire were cold, and the humming was gone. But next to his tent were footprints in a perfect circle, and one bloody handprint on his cooler. What walks these lands is older than the stories themselves, hungrier than myths, and closer than we think. If you camp in the San Luis Valley, keep your fire burning. Sleep with salt by the door. And if you hear someone say your name in the dark, don't answer. Because the reason may be that they're calling your name because they want your skin.
Oh, Colorado, what secrets do you keep?
And there you have it, 3 chilling tales from Colorado. From the snow-covered peaks of Estes Park to the burning gates of Riverdale Road to the haunted silence of San Luis Valley, Colorado reminds us, elevation doesn't protect you from the darkness. Thank you for listening to this episode of the 50th Room Podcast. If these stories moved you, then please rate the show. Leave a review. It helps more than you know. And if you have tales of your own, send them in. I love reading your stories. Don't forget to follow on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to our YouTube. Until next time, stay cautious, stay curious, and remember, wherever you travel in this world, whether by highway, hotel lobby, or ancient trail, there's always a door you didn't see until it cracks open. Stay haunted.
The miners, the mourners, the ones left behind still march through the pines with their eyes gone blind. Every ghost in the gorge, every scream in the steam tells the tale of a paradise that's never what it seems. Oh, Colorado, what secrets do you keep underneath your peaks? The dead don't sleep. Cries in the canyons, shadows in the frost. Every trail a tale of something lost. You're haunted, cursed in the